Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to night two of the 2026 Crime Waves Next Gen Exchange. If you have a question or anything, please post it in the Q&A or in the chat. We'll have a conversation there. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, and if you're a student, a professional, or a community member, please put that in the chat as we get started here. We will have two different presentations tonight, and I'm hoping that you can stay for the entire thing. March is National Criminal Justice Month. This is a time specifically dedicated to promoting awareness, fostering professional growth, and having the critical conversations necessary to improve our justice system. This exchange was designed as a direct response to that call to action. For those who were here last night for Dr. Jean Katz's keynote on mental health crisis response, it was an incredible start to a week's-long focus. If you are just joining us for the first time tonight, we are thrilled to have you. I'm your host, Christopher Zaleski. I'm an associate professor of criminology with a law degree and police legal advisor training from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and have over 20 years of experience working in the criminal justice field, including as a state law enforcement officer and a chief probation officer. I am joined here tonight by my co-host, Dr. Mary Evans, an assistant professor of criminology. So the Crime Waves Exchange is rooted in the long-standing commitment of our host institution, the Chicago School. To understand the why behind our work here tonight, you have to understand the mission that guides us, a transformative dedication to educating the next generation of change makers in innovative theory and culturally competent practice to strengthen the integrated health of individuals, organizations, and communities. At times this week, you will hear from me, other professors, and also students who are completing their bachelor's degree in criminology. We will also be joined by amazing leaders in their field across criminal justice. Last night, and again tonight, when I see who is registered here and who is attending, I see exactly what this summit was built for: a powerful convergence of perspective and passion. We have students, seasoned professionals, and community members all at the same table. This is where the real work of shaping the future of justice happens. We don't just teach criminology at the Chicago School, we apply it. Our BA in criminology and our MA in applied forensic psychology are designed for the modern world, offered 100% online to meet professionals and students where they are. We are particularly proud of our early entry into Master's Bridge, which allows undergraduate students to dive into graduate level work in forensic psychology, public health, or clinical mental health counseling. Students in criminology forensic psych specialization will take 20 credits of graduate coursework in forensic psychology as part of their bachelor's degree. Upon graduation, they only have 10 more credits remaining to receive their master's in applied forensic psychology. Besides taking these courses as part of the undergraduate degree, folks get an additional 25% alumni tuition discount to finish that degree, saving an incredible amount of money and time. At the Chicago School, we believe education must be a catalyst for action. We aren't just discussing theory, we're cultivating the transformative practice necessary to improve the justice landscape for everyone. And if you are already working in the criminal justice field, we offer a special tuition rate. If you're interested in finding out more about our programs, please check out our website, thechicagoschool.edu, and everyone attending will receive a follow-up email with more information. So we have a massive night ahead of us. Tonight we start with our crime scene investigation showcase, followed by a briefing on leadership and healthy police culture with Chief Doreen Jokerst. And as we look at the rest of the week, on Wednesday we'll dive into the forensic psychology showcase and a legal briefing on police use of deadly force presented by me. On Thursday, we wrap up with our criminal profiling showcase and a look at reentry and behavioral health. Now, a quick note for those with busy schedules. We know life happens on the front lines. If you missed last night or you have to step away later this week, all sessions are being recorded. You can watch the recordings at your convenience, and yes, you can still earn your digital badges by completing the requirements after viewing the replays. We'll send you more information, like I said, after these sessions are done. So speaking of badges, this is what you'll get if you attend one or more of them. Tonight's badge: by participating in this evening's session, you'll receive the Crime Scene Investigation Practitioner Preview Badge and the Justice Leadership and Culture Advocate Badge. For those who complete the full 4-night briefing, either live or via the recordings, you'll earn the Next Gen Justice Practitioner micro-credential. These badges are issued through Credly, making them easy to add to your LinkedIn profile or digital resume. You'll receive an email following the summit with specific instructions on how to claim them. Keep an eye out on your inbox. So our mission of the Chicago School is about more than just theory. It's about empowering the people who will put that theory into action. Because this summit is dedicated to the next generation of justice, it is only fitting that I step aside and let one of those future leaders guide us into our first session. Please join me in welcoming Shamila Potts, a student in our criminology program, to take the lead on this next session.
Thank you, Professor Zaleski. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shamila Potts, and I am a student in the BA in Criminology program with a specialization in public health here at the Chicago School. I am currently taking graduate-level public health courses that count toward both my bachelor's degree and my future Master of Public Health. I will graduate on May 1st and then begin the MPH program. As a graduate, I'll receive an alumni tuition discount, but more importantly, I'll enter the program having already completed 18 credits, which will save me time and help me stay focused on my long-term goals. The public health specialization within the criminology program has been especially meaningful to me because it aligns with my passion for advocacy and addressing gaps in underserved communities. One of the most important things I've learned is that you cannot separate the justice system from the health of a community. In public health, we focus on the social determinants of health, the environmental and systemic factors that influence how people live, access resources, and make decisions. Through this lens, I have come to understand that many of the challenges individuals face are not just personal, but structural. My goal is to use this knowledge to help educate and empower individuals, especially young people, to advocate for themselves within healthcare, education, and social systems. I believe by creating stronger, more informed communities, we can reduce disparities and improve overall outcomes. We see criminology and public health as two sides of the same coin. One addresses the safety of the environment, and the other addresses the well-being of the people within it. By combining both, we can create more equitable, supportive, and sustainable communities. It's that same focus on evidence-based science that brings us to our first session. To start our evening, we are diving into the Crime Scene Investigation Showcase. This isn't the Hollywood version. Instead, we're going to show you a series of demonstrations highlighting the actual science used in modern crime scene investigation. You'll see how physical evidence is identified, collected, and processed to ensure accuracy and integrity in the field. To take us through these demonstrations, we have Professor Stephanie Arbogast. Stephanie Arbogast is a forensic scientist turned educator with over a decade of experience spanning forensic biology, courtroom testimony, and higher education. After earning her Bachelor of Science in Biology from Nova Southeastern University, she began her career as a crime laboratory analyst in the DNA biology section for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. From 2016 to 2021, she worked more than 350 independent criminal cases, including sexual assaults, death investigations, robberies, and violent crimes, while contributing to thousands more through collaborative laboratory efforts. While with FDLE, she earned her Master of Science in Forensic Science from the University of Central Florida, which now allows her to formally instruct higher learning students and future professionals in the field. She has provided sworn testimony in depositions and jury trials throughout Florida over 20 times, translating complex DNA evidence findings into clear, defensible scientific conclusions. Open the door. She currently serves as the program director for the Crime Scene Technology and Forensic Investigation programs at Kaiser University in Fort Myers. In addition to her leadership role at Kaiser, she serves as an adjunct instructor for the Chicago School, Florida Gulf Coast University, Grand Canyon University, and Alliant International University, teaching forensic science and chemistry at both undergraduate and graduate levels. She also currently serves as a private forensic DNA consultant for the Cold Case Homicide Unit within the 20th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office. Her mission is simple: to develop confident, competent, and courtroom-ready forensic professionals. Please help me welcome Professor Stephanie Arbogast.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to make sure that everybody can see me. So I'm going to make sure.
We can see you okay.
You can see me fine?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's funny because I can't see myself. So that's great. Okay. Perfect. Sounds good to me. Honestly, it's almost better if I can't see myself or if I look really small in the top. Okay. So I'm on the big screen. You can see me. This is my
Yes.
house, my spotlight. Perfect. Um, Thank you so much, Miss Potts, for introducing me. You make me sound so accomplished. I appreciate that very much. And also congratulations to you for graduating. And it's really awesome because I just want to point out that she is doing this from an online perspective. And it looks also as if you may be a provider, a mom, and from one mom to another in this field with graduating and taking your courses online, you truly can have it all. So I'm here to help you guys learn and do a little bit of a mini master course for crime scene investigation. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But first things first, I have a few things here that I need to prep for future Stephanie. So the first thing before I have my gloves on, I'm going to start my saliva test. So this right here is an agar gel. It's basically made from potato starch and a mixture of water. And we dissolve the starch in the water and we allow that gel to solidify. So it's just in a regular Petri dish. There's nothing in it right now, but I am going to write a hidden message in saliva. So we're going to get nice up close and personal so I can show you that this is a legit sample. This is actually saliva. So here we go. I look like a suspect, right? So I'm going to write a little hidden message, and after it incubates for a little bit, we'll actually test it. Okay, you can't see it yet, but you will in a little bit. So we're going to set that aside. And then we're going to prep future stuff again, and we're going to put our fingerprints on this whiteboard. So I'm going to show you how to develop some fingerprints. So a little mini lesson here in fingerprints before we move on to doing blood is the powders that you use at the crime scene adheres to the greases and the oils and the waters in your friction ridges. So the way to make a perfect print, if you will, would be to get nice and greasy on your fingers. So you want to use like the back of your neck, your nose, maybe your forehead, to make sure that your fingertips get nice and greasy so that I can actually show you a beautiful print. It's not always like that at the crime scene, but for learning purposes, we really do want to create a good sample so that we can learn, right? So I'm just going to put my fingerprints all over this whiteboard. And again, can't see anything yet, right? So we're going to let that hang out until our fingerprint segment. So I do have 4 different sections for you guys today. And the first thing that we're going to start off with is blood. So blood is one of the main things that you are going to find at the crime scene. Excuse me. So you're going to see blood. I saw so much blood, and testing for it is actually Very simple, very easy. It's a 3-step color change method called the Kasselmeyer test. You take notes because there's going to be a quiz later. Just kidding. There's not going to be a quiz, but hopefully you take notes and then you'll actually be able to understand it and put it in your long-term memory for that future interview when you become a future crime scene tech. So right here, I have a sample of a fabric and we have a red-brown stain on it. So I made it nice, that nice little X marks the spot, right? So we have an X that may possibly be blood, and we are going to test it before we actually submit it for DNA analysis. And the reason behind that is I'm sure you've seen the color red before or brown before or gray. Sometimes it looks kind of grayish or green, and not everything is blood. So we don't want to waste our resources and our time testing for DNA something that is not even blood, right? Especially if it's Dr. Pepper or, red paint. So we're going to test this for blood. And what we use are new swab, not the swab that I put my saliva on, but brand new fresh swabs. The first thing that you want to do is get your swab nice and wet. Now, when you perform your tests, you never want to touch your reagents to your samples because that could contaminate my water right here. So if I were to place the tip of this on top of my swab, I could potentially contaminate all of this water that I'm going to use for future experiments and future cases, right? So we want to make sure that we're diligent and we have control the entire time. And we want to make sure that quality is really, really high because the stakes are really high in criminal justice, right? So I have my water. I'm going to take a little sample of this possible blood because right now it's possibly blood. It's some type of red-brown stain. And you want to swab it just enough that there's a little bit of transfer from your fabric to your swab. So I'm going to come around the table and show my camera so that you guys can all see what we're looking at. So I have a little baby bit of transfer. And then I'm going to perform the Kasselmeyer test. And this is a 3-step color change test where realistically it's an acid-base reaction. So simple chemistry, think like high school level chemistry, but in a forensic context. So what's going to happen is when I apply that third reagent, and a reagent is a chemical, so that's just a fancy word for a chemical. So when I apply that third reagent is hydrogen peroxide, which I'm sure you probably all have in your bathroom cabinet or in your closet, right? So once I add that, what that's going to do, it's actually going to oxidize blood. And because an oxidization reaction happens, the phenolphthalein, which is the second step, that phenolphthalein becomes oxidized and it turns from an acidic substance to a basic substance and boom, it turns bright pink. So the first thing we're going to do is add ethanol, and the ethanol breaks open the cells, specifically the red blood cells, because if blood is present, the hemoglobin is the MVP of your sample. The hemoglobin is what's going to oxidize your hydrogen peroxide at the end. So there's step 1. There's no color change yet. Step 2 is phenolphthalein. You're going to add 1 to 2 drops of that. And at this point, there's no color change yet. I'm even going to come close because that's really important. If it turns hot pink, that means you may have some contamination in your reagents or some other type of oxidizing agent in your sample, like rust. Then the last step is hydrogen peroxide. And if blood is present, it's going to turn hot pink. And that's going to tell me that blood is possibly present, and I can send this sample to DNA analysis. Now I'm going to quickly come up because boom, right there, it turns hot pink. And that's an indicator that blood is possibly present. Now this swab is trash because this swab is going to degrade all of the DNA, and we want a DNA profile, right? That's the whole reason why we're trying to catch a criminal, so that we can identify the criminal. So when you actually go to take your sample, you can either take a direct cutting from the fabric, or you have to get a nice, fresh, new swab and send that on for DNA analysis. So there's blood. Easy peasy, right? 3 steps. Boom. Next, I'm going to show you, and this is a module in my new course, Introduction to Forensic Science, a foundation in physical sciences. So that is going to be offered at the Chicago School starting this spring. So look out for that. But this is a little lesson, and it's called blood pattern analysis. So blood pattern analysis is understanding the storyline of what happened during the crime. So when blood is shed, whether that's a suspect getting shot on their way out as they're running, if a defendant's trying to protect himself, like a victim's trying to protect themselves, or if a victim was running away through the house, it kind of gives you a little bit of a roadmap based off of the blood patterns. Also, you can help determine maybe the type of weapon that was used, the force, and the angle of impact. So you can kind of guesstimate around where the action was being performed, or possibly even how tall the suspect is. So I'm going to give you guys a little tidbit. And this is a pattern type, and I performed the pattern type on here so I can show you. So this is a cast off pattern right here. So what you can see is there's actual directionality to this type. And what's really cool about that is when you look at it, the blood actually creates a tail. And that tail, believe it or not, even though tails are typically in the back of a body, like a dog's body, right? The tail is really the way that it's going. It's the direction that it's going. So all of the tails line up and they're going this direction, which means that the force is coming from over here in that direction. So that's a cast off. Next, this is a void. So can you tell what was there? A pair of scissors. So you can tell what was there. Blood was shed and that tool was removed. So this is one of my favorites. Next, there's a difference between a swipe and a wipe. So a swipe is when you have blood on your body and you push it against a substance or a substrate like a wall, and you'll see that the initial amount is really heavy at the front and tapers off, feathers off towards the one edge. So you can actually determine the direction that it's going and that blood was on somebody's person or the weapon prior. Next, we have a wipe, which means blood was placed. This is called a skeletonized ring, how you can see that definition there. So the wipe is that blood was here first and an object came and tried to wipe it away. And so this also can help you tell that story and kind of create a scenario for the jury to see. And lastly is a gunshot. So gunshot is really high impact. And so you see super tiny dots right there. That's really, really important. So if they're less than 4 millimeters in diameter, that's pretty indicative that something with a high rate of speed created that bloodshed. So there's your blood pattern analysis. See, you're an expert already. All right, so next we're gonna do a drug test. So we're gonna do that. I have about 5 minutes, which is perfect timing because again, these are really rapid tests, which is really fun. So right now we're gonna do the cocaine test, and this is using Scott's reagent. So you can see that Scott's reagent is naturally a pink color. Look at me trying to be an influencer. Honestly, the white background's perfect. So there's your pink, right? If I have a possible white powder that may be cocaine, I'm going to try and test it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of my sample in a little white well. That way I get a nice contrast. And all you do is you take a little drop. 1 to 2 drops should be perfect. Mix it just a little bit. And if a blue color starts to develop, that is indicative of possible cocaine. Then you can send that to the lab and they'll actually run gas chromatography, mass spectrometry on it to determine and confirm that it is actually cocaine. Because I don't have cocaine right here, there are some false positives that do work for learning purposes. So you see that little blue color right here? That is way different than the original pink color. Blue to pink. So there you have it. So there's the Scott's reagent test, so you can do that in the field. There's also decently safe ones. These are called NIC tests. And you put your sample in here. You break the little vials that are inside. And then it's all contained in one area. And then it will turn that cobalt blue in the corner where your sample is too. So that's really helpful. All right, next is our saliva test. So I'm hoping that it incubated enough. I think it did. But like I said before, this is the starch iodine test. So this is used for possible saliva. So if somebody was assaulted or if somebody left a mask behind where saliva could be present because they put something over their mouth, we can determine if saliva is present by doing this starch iodine test. And basically what happens is your saliva is meant to break down starch. It has a chemical component in it called alpha amylase. And alpha amylase breaks down starches. And what's inside of here? Starch. So my saliva will break down the starch. And when I add iodine, iodine will react with the starch. However, it won't be able to intercalate between the starch that had already been eaten up. So it's just going to flow right through it and leave a clearing. So I'll show you that soon. So this is an iodine dilution. It's yellow in color. And when I apply it to my starch, instead of it turning yellow, it actually creates a reaction and it turns a deep blue color, which is really, really helpful. And it worked. Look at that. Can't wait to show the camera. It's so exciting. I love this stuff, which is why I teach it and train it. All right. Let's see if I can get a nice little background for you. So can you guys see that? I made a little DNA strand because DNA is my favorite, and I wrote forensics. Woo! So there it is. Now you can see that saliva is present, so you can take a sample from that mask, and that way you can actually create a DNA profile from that saliva because we have a lot of cells in our mouth. All right, and lastly, look at this. I only have 1 minute and I have plenty of time to do this. So we've got our clear board, right? Can't see anything on it. That is a latent fingerprint. And if you dust with black powder adheres to the oils in your fingerprints. So a nice little technique when you're dusting for fingerprints is you like to make that little skirt dance. So just make the skirt dance. All you need is 2 fingers. Boom, boom, boom. Make that skirt dance. And there's plenty of black powder on this, so you don't need to boom, boom, put it in the little container. But plenty of black powder on here. Make that little skirt dance. Skirt dance. Woo, woo, woo. Whoops. There we go. And you're already starting to pick up some latent prints that you didn't see with the naked eye. Now you can see them. And I'll put them near the camera for you guys. And then bam, just like that, you know how to do 4 different tests to try to catch your criminal. So now you can see my fingerprints. Ta-da! All right. Well, that's all I have for you. I hope you learned a little something about forensics, how to catch a criminal, because again, remember Lockhardt's principle is every contact leaves a trace. You just have to figure out what that is. Thank you so much for watching.